Welcome one and all to today's, well, should I say this week's edition of the Chroma Team Roundtable Korean skincare routine. Yeah, I actually bought a ton when I was there, when I was in Seoul. As you guys know, as always, we try and give you a kind of a holistic analysis of the markets, kind of tell you what we're looking at, what has our attention, what you should be paying attention to over the next 7 days or so until we kind of bring it around to the next roundtable. And that's kind of the objective of this. It's fairly light. It's conversational. We're just having a discussion about what has piqued our interest and hopefully sharing some alpha and sharing some of that knowledge with you guys. So with that in mind, we're going to kick off for people. And I often wonder, has the crypto market kind of hit a what's the word? A kind of a point of no return whereby people coming into it now are just looking to make a quick buck. Not that they weren't before, but I think in previous cycles there was more of an emphasis on adding value to the ecosystem, adding utility to the ecosystem, bringing projects to market that actually do something, that actually offer some utility to users, to people in the community. It seems like now there's far more of an emphasis. Like we saw this, I don't know if you guys seen with Pump. Pump, the Elon and the other Pump co-founder, I can't remember his name. They've actually been undergoing an investigation for breaching RICO laws in the US, which is like a massive thing, and kind of explains why they've been relatively absent, and why they have not been super active promoting their coin recently. But yeah, all of which is to say that I see that. That's pretty good. That's intense. You see, I think that things have changed this cycle, and that's one of the main reasons why traders are so disappointed, is because they see what happened in 2021, they see what happened in 2017, they expect those things to happen this cycle, and they haven't happened, and therein lies the disappointment. But yeah, in particular, Monad, I know you were pretty bullish on this one, Jedi. So was I, to be honest. I really thought it would find a bottom. The launch looked good. It seemed like they had some really good teams and projects working alongside them. The fact that it's just dying now, really indicative to me of a lack of an altcoin bid.
You know, dude, the thing is that if you speak to Monk, he'll be able to confirm this. I was actually quite bearish Monad during the build up to probably like a year ago, because what happened was is that I got kind of like an inside track around kind of like from an investment perspective from angel investors, and kind of like the conversations that were being had by the general investor community. And it was actually quite bearish at the time, because if there was anyone in this market that had oversubscribed allocation, it was Monad. And to top it off, they delayed that project by probably around 18 months. So it was a combination of the two. But then what happened was is I landed up speaking to a whole bunch of builders on Monad, like like the likes of Monk and his crew, and a bunch of other projects. And there's a lot of really good projects that are building on Monad. If you go and look at the Monad directory, anyone can go and do a search in chat. Go check it out. Who's building on Monad? And it's actually really impressive. So from a fundamentals perspective, there's a lot of really good projects that have raised considerable amount of money that are actually building cool shit. And the cool thing is that they're not actually like going and doing countless TGs. These guys are building, and they're looking to actually get their shit together. So we've got a combination of two things here. We've got bullish catalysts that obviously are never going to land up recognizing their potential because price is down only. And then you've got a Monad contingent and founders who have basically milked this thing until the cow fell over. So I think this is another example of just oversubscribing, probably an airdrop that went into the wrong hands as well, because all we're seeing now is price go down. Normally, what happens, in my opinion, if there is such a thing as a legit airdrop, is that there is that initial kind of sell off, the thing finds a bottom, and then it does something quite positive from that point onwards. The way that Plasma played it is that they just didn't sell their airdrop, they waited. They pumped it. They got the market makers in. They pumped it to $1.20, whatever it was. We all got horny. We all bought the top, and then they just dumped on us from that point onwards.
Yeah, and I think that's another issue you just touched on there, which is the kind of the insider component of this cycle. We call this the crime cycle.
Yep.
We even saw just like an hour ago that coin Pippin, which is pumped like I don't know what it is, like 2000% in a few weeks, and it just dumped like 50% in one candle. Um, that might you might just think, oh god, that's terrible. What's happening? But some entity, there's one entity, like one wallet that controls like 70 something percent of the supply. So it's like one dude just fucking controlling price. And if you're somehow in that other 30%, then you're really playing a dangerous game. That's what I'll say. But I want to, speaking of kind of this cycle and how things are different and how liquidity dynamics in particular and market mechanics are different, I want to touch now on the dead bodies from 1010 kind of floating to the surface. And this is something I actually made a post on in my channel a few days ago about just kind of the post 1010 trading conditions. And I will summarize that very quickly. But effectively, it is now 2 months post 10th of October. As you guys will well know, 10th of October was the largest liquidation event in crypto history. We had something like 30 billion to 60 billion, depending on who you ask and what data metrics you check in total liquidations. But the final figure is still unknown. Um, and I made the point kind of a few days after that liquidity dynamics were going to be different now for the rest of the cycle for a variety of reasons. One of those, and I think probably the most important one, the point I made at the time, was that new capital was going to really struggle to be attracted to an asset class that can go minus 90% in one candle. And we were going to have a very tough time kind of attracting this institutional capital, this DAT capital, treasury company capital to altcoins when those same altcoins can go minus 85% or minus 90%, or in some cases like Atom Spot on Binance, literally go to zero. But one of the points I didn't really consider fully at the time was market makers taking a huge hit, and that's something I want to talk about on this conversation. Market makers taking a huge hit and therefore changing the way that they make markets going forward. It has since come to light that Wintermute suffered a potentially 8 or 9 figure loss because of auto deleveraging at the hands of Binance, which is an ongoing situation with, I believe, lawyers involved now. Um, ABC, who was the top hyperliquid market maker, lost over $35 million. Cyant Arb had to close a $100 million position, took around $20 million in losses. Selene Capital had 3 separate positions liquidated. Estimates vary what that loss was, but it's probably around $50 to $60 million. And one of the figures I saw floating around is that 30% of all market maker funds active in crypto were either wiped out or severely compromised to the point where those market makers have to pull liquidity off exchanges. Now, that is absolutely shocking to me. That's a crazy figure because it means that not only does it mean that those market makers took a hit, but it means that certain risk control parameters are going to kick in, and those guys can't just, it's not just as easy as stepping back in and making markets. Those guys are going to be forced to withdraw, lick their wounds, whatever it is, and kind of live to fight another day. But that could take months or years before they step back into crypto if they ever do at all. So I want to kind of touch on that at the moment, and I guess it's a question for the entire panel. Like, do you think that something has changed irrevocably for the crypto market for the remainder of the cycle, for the next few months, for the next few years, whatever it is? Do you think that's a permanent thing, or do you think it's just temporary? Is this kind of the end of the bull run, as it were? Was 1010 that liquidation event? Was that the kind of the climax of the bull run, and it's all down only from here? Even though a lot of alts barely really saw any upside. Um, and I guess that the real question is, do you think that this is a healthy market? And that's open to the entire panel.
I have some strong opinions on this, and I actually talked about these exact things just like you did the day after the 10th of October, even without realizing how much of a hit market makers experienced. And to simply answer your question, I think yes, this is irreparable damage that was done to the crypto markets. For this cycle, for sure, I cannot predict the future, so I don't know what will happen in the next cycle. But because in crypto, people sometimes never learn. Like we saw alts go down 90 to 95% in the previous bear market, yet still people still came and bought altcoins this cycle. But there was a difference. They were not that, as you can see, the altcoin market was totally different this cycle. So because of the 10th of October, the altcoin market next cycle will be, in my opinion, even worse than it was this cycle, which was worse than 2021. So yeah, I truly believe that it has done some big damage to the world of crypto and the way the market moves and the way the market behaves. And we are still seeing the effects of that right now. Bringing back your previous topic about altcoin launches, how do you convince someone that has invested in your project to not sell if they saw what happened 2 months earlier, the fact that all altcoins went down more than 60% in a single day? How would any smart investor hold their money in something like that? And it leads to these changes and to these, for some people, unexpected behavior that we are now seeing, and I think that will just get worse. I don't know, maybe they are able to bring back some capital through lawsuits, but that's not my area of expertise. So yeah, I truly believe that it's bad and it's not gonna get better, because I don't see how you convince people that that was just a one-off event and it will never happen again.
Yeah, I agree, Vic.
Thank you.
You know, there's a saying, strong opinions loosely held, but I think this is a strong opinion that's very firmly held. I think the 10-10 thing, I think there were a few of us in Discord who we smelt it. We've been around for long enough, and we knew there was like someone massive, someone big has basically gotten the monkey wrench to the head here, and there's no coming back from that. So I think, to answer your question, Folus, it's definitely what Vic is saying. I think next iteration of altcoin market is going to have to be very different in order for people to have any interest. I, for one, don't want to hold alts. I'm not interested. I mean, even hype. I mean, look at hype. The fundamentals around hype are insane. It's got all the right ingredients. It ticks all the boxes. Yet there's massive sell-off. Yet there's a lot of holders out there that have way too many disproportionately sized bags. And I can tell you right now, it's a result of that fucking airdrop. And they've just got an unlimited supply. The thing generates a serious amount of money. All the right ingredients are there. I mean, if this was a share on the stock market and you were getting dividends off the back of that, you would be sitting very comfy and hype right now. But that's not the case. And I think that's where the change needs to happen. Otherwise, altcoins and the altcoin market is done and dusted, and we might as well shelve it in a dark basement somewhere.
So is this, do you guys think, is this like the warning signs of something that's going to just increasingly get worse and worse and worse? Or is this more like, every market has its top signal, every market has its kind of point of no return, but then things reset once the market, once prices go down and the bad projects die off and the good projects survive, kind of a thing? Like, how permanent do we think this thing is? Because, I guess, like, people are worried now, and this is a question I've gotten a lot on my streams, is, if 2021 or sorry, if this current cycle, this whatever it is, this 2023 to 2025 bull run, whatever you want to call it, if this was worse than the 2021 bull run, what will the
Can I
next bull run look like?
can I intervene on this subject?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Sorry for
Hello.
the noise. I'm in my car. I don't think anyone has actually discussed the one big key component of the bull run that happened in 2025, which was micro strategy issuing shares to investors and using the share money to buy Bitcoin. Because for whatever the MNAV was, it was 1 for 2, and now it's down to 1 to 115. So essentially, one thing that fueled the bull run in a parabolic manner was MicroStrategy printing basically magic money out of thin air, buying Bitcoin, thus raising Bitcoin prices, and in return, making even more money out of thin air. But like everything, like every Ponzi scheme, this has an end. And when investors started realizing the payoff wasn't that high anymore, look what happened. They took profits, and now what MicroStrategy essentially did earlier this year, they cannot do it. They cannot do it anymore. And with such a strong actor of the market being essentially deprived of that little magic trick that they had. I'm not sure, and I'm pretty like I'm very not confident in the upside future of crypto at the moment. I don't know if you guys heard about that
Rouge,
or documented on the
but
subject.
but Rouge, he supposedly ran out of money, and then last week bought $1 billion worth, and the week before he bought another $1 billion. So where the hell is he getting all this money from?
Who
Doing
knows?
his
All I know is in 2027 he has to start paying the loans back, and if by then the Bitcoin price or whatever, I don't know, his treasury or whatever. I'm not in the finances of MicroStrategy. I'm just saying that the mechanism used by MSTR to buy Bitcoin is not paying off as good as it was essentially earlier this year, where investors could basically leverage on MSTR without margin calls. They had leverage on MSTR shares without margin, without the risk of being margin called, like they were, if you use crypto on like 5x, whatever, you can get margin call pretty quickly if Bitcoin just dips 20%. That was not the case with MSTR. So the thing is, um, I'm kind of lost in words because I'm driving. Just let me think 1 second. What was that?
I mean, I think that's also like potentially a separate issue to what it is that we're discussing. But I think it is an issue. I think it is a point of contention and a point of discussion. Is like, what is the status of MicroStrategy's Bitcoin position have on the greater market? Well, it's $65 billion, and if he goes south, we're going to land up getting Bitcoin at a really fucking good price. That's going to be the result of it. Will it be the end of Bitcoin? I don't think so. But I
I'm
think
not
it will
saying
be
you, yeah.
99% of alts.
I cannot remember what I was going to say. Sorry, a bit confused because I'm driving in the middle of the traffic.
That's okay, Rouge.
Just
Don't crash your car. That's the most important thing. We can a market crash is okay, but don't crash the car.
Thanks for joining anyway, Rouge. So,
yeah, my Bitcoin is crashing without me. Got stopped break even twice. That's fun.
Well, give us some
Yeah.
insight. What do you we spoke about the market, we spoke about kind of choppy low volume PA. I mean, what's your experience trading the market in the last 2 months since the 10th of October? Have you noticed anything different? Have you noticed that the market mechanics have changed? And if so, how?
I cannot share a chart, but two things that I have noticed uh, pretty clearly. First thing is market takes way more time to form a bottom. We have way less V-shaped reversals. We don't even have strong bounces. Anytime we had a bounce, that set bounce has been retested multiple times to the extremes, and I'm talking 886 type of retraces, so almost to the pivot before actually taking a direction. It happened this night again, where we bottomed at 85 100 something, and market retraced back to 85 250 before taking its direction. That's the first thing. Bounces are way more inefficient. And the second thing is shorting. When you are looking at short opportunities, market tends not to give you the obvious ones. It will slightly front run the point of interest that everyone is looking for to sell, and thus it leaves people like me sidelined while having the idea. So that's the two main components I've felt since the 10th of October. So I don't know if you guys share my thoughts. I know most of you are more inclined in longing rather than shorting, but longs are feeling very hard at the moment. It kind of It's like market needs at least 5 or 6 hours in the zone of the bounce before actually bouncing. And to be honest, when you're in that kind of position, it feels like a gamble to hold onto the position you have.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you look at the vast majority of charts over the last 2 months, I mean, they're down only, even Bitcoin from whatever that Pico high was in 5th or 6th of October. And since then, it really is like we spoke about on stream yesterday, this idea that markets move in impulses and corrections. And the corrective phases these last 2 months have all been bullish moves, whereas the impulsive phases have all been bear moves. So yeah, you definitely have a point there, and I agree with you on that. But I want to move on. We only have about 15 minutes left, and I want to cover the Bank of Japan foot. I'm going to go to Osber for that in a moment. But first of all, I just want to quickly touch on the lighter TG, and this is something that I'm guessing that Jedi and possibly others can offer some thoughts on this. We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, but I want to get another take. I want to speak about it again because it is all over my timeline. It's in the server. Guys are arguing about what the price is, what the FDV is going to be. We have seen markets, uh, making predictions on whether or not it's going to be above or below a certain amount. So yeah, the question is this going to be a big bang or a big failure? And the second part of that question is, will there be a knock-on effect for other DEX coins? That is something that I'm very keen on exploring because I've heard from some very smart people in this space. They are watching. They don't have necessarily any direct interest in the lighter TG, but they have interests in other dexes and other projects, and they are watching the lighter TG with a lot of attention because it could be a hype. It could be a hype 2.0 whereby this thing revitalizes the whole perp deck space, gets money flowing back into perp dexes, gets people trading on perp dexes again, gets people excited about putting volume on perp dexes again, in the same way that hype kind of did over a year ago. So Jedi first, and then open to Osborne and Victor, whether you guys have any opinions. But Jedi, what are your thoughts on this?
As much as I'd like to be bullish about it, and I think it does have a number of catalysts to indicate that it could be bullish, I always find in situations like this, well, not always, but the majority of time when there is this amount of hype and there's comparisons made around an existing airdrop or release like hype, I find that things go south and it lands up being a huge disappointment. So, I mean, I've farmed lights. I spent a lot of time there in the early days, so I didn't come in late. So I'm feeling pretty good about my kind of farming efforts. But at the same time, I'm not particularly bullish, to answer your question, and it pains me to say that, just because I think there's way too much attention on this thing. I think this goose is already cooked. And also, I mean, there's a part of me that's saying, well, don't have high expectations. At least then you won't be disappointed. So anything that comes my way, I'll be happy. But I just don't see it, dude. I mean, we don't have capital in the markets. Liquidity's dry. Um, it just doesn't look favorable for any kind of like major upside. I think it's going to land up being a disappointment. I think the fundamentals around this project are sound. The DEX works. It does what it says on the box. It's got all the right ingredients, but I'm not feeling too positive about it.
I'm just seeing Phobia saying in the chat, lighter will be a great short. I have seen that same sentiment echoed. But by the same sentiment, there's lots of guys who are saying the exact opposite. For better or for worse, I think Jedi has a very valid point there, and I'm inclined to agree with him. I think that these launches and these projects, it's really just so market dependent, and it really doesn't matter if you have a fucking coin that cures cancer. It honestly doesn't matter if there is no altcoin bid and no capital in the market to invest in those coins, or to send the price of those coins higher. They're just going to suffer. They're just going to be another casualty in the kind of the market the market conditions will make them another casualty of war, as it were. I'm curious, Osber, Victor. Victor, I know you just posted some poly market odds in the chat, and that's something that I had been looking at a couple of days ago. A lot of these perp dexes with TGEs, like Lighter, I think Gravity might be one. Paradex is one. They have their dime token. I think is EdgeX got one coming out. I'm not entirely sure. I might be talking out my ass there. But
Extended.
looking at extended, that's another one. Variational, I believe, is another one. Like looking at these poly market odds and kind of coming to realize as well that a lot of guys with points in these dexes are actually hedging their positions on poly market. So if they have a lot of points, they're going to bet that it's going to be a shitty TG, so they win either way. Which is kind of funny to me that these poly market odds might actually not be telling the full story. But what's your take on that?
So we have three markets on Polymarket. One being if we even get a TG this year, the airdrop, and that was something that Jedi talked about last roundtable. But then we talked in the predictions chat a lot with Ali, who apparently has a lot of knowledge about that, and he said that it's almost certain that it's gonna come this year. So right now it's priced at 87% that is gonna come this year. So I tend to believe that that will be the case. And then you can also bet on the date when the airdrop will actually be, and apparently the highest odds are for the 29th of December. I don't know if it's insider trading or if there is any actual news that has been released why people think that that will be the date. But the most interesting one, and the one that you also mentioned, is the one what the market cap of on the first day of the launch will be. And like you mentioned, there are lots of guys, and I believe those are smart guys that are hedging their positions with betting on a low airdrop, a low market cap. Because I saw this figure of being a 3 billion market cap on launch. And I can now see that it's only priced in at 55% chance. So that might be guys hedging their positions. That might be the product of the market that we are in. And I tend to believe they are right. I don't know. I have to read the details if this is exactly on release or at the end of the first day of the release. But I also think that it's going to be not such a great airdrop especially because of the market conditions that we are in. Because how can you convince, I don't know, investors in general that this thing is worth $3 billion when you've got real companies producing real assets that are not worth nearly as much? So yeah, I tend to agree that it's going to be a better airdrop. Like, remember, and this is an example that I will always remember, at the peak of this cycle, Dogecoin had a higher market capitalization than the company Ford, that's the oldest car manufacturer in the US. How is that sustainable? So yeah, I think that's something that you always have to think about. And being in the shitty conditions, there will be hype. There is hype already around Lighter, but I think it will be short-lived.
Yeah, those are good points. That's funny. I never heard that that point about Doge and Ford, but that's kind of a hilarious comparison. Osbro, I'm going to go to you about the Bank of Japan question, but before that, do you have any takes on the Lighter TG or indeed kind of what this means for the perp deck space?
I am very noob when it comes to tokenomics, to DEX, etc. I've just got involved for the airdrop because I completely faded Hyperliquid back then. I had a few French friends who got into Hyperliquid very early.
I was about to say, like, all the guys that I know who made crazy money on Hyperliquid were all French somehow. There seems to have been some French collusion.
Yeah, the guys
there.
that we met in Korea, for example, these guys made crazy amounts of money.
was another one, right? He made like
millions.
Yeah, he made like $1 million on Hype or something.
Yeah. Crypto pulp as well, etc. Like they made crazy amount of money, and I was like, nah, I don't really believe into like airdrop that could change your life. And in fact, it did. So I just got into Lighter, but with no expectations. It's just free money anyway. You just trade normally, and even if you lose a little bit on your account, let's say you put 2 grand and you lose like 500, it's fine because you found points and you probably largely compensate the losses. So yeah, I just got in for the airdrop. I would say regarding the changes that it could bring to the deck space, I noticed that now there is a competition between the perp dexes about bringing equities and trading stocks and indices on perp dexes, and I think that's at least for me, who has been in the space for quite a long time. I'm also like 30 years old. I'm a boomer. That's a major change, and that's a very good thing that we're allowed to trade stocks, etc. On chain. That's a very very good thing. Without KYC, nothing. It brings that to a large audience, because a lot of people, for example, when I was sharing gold trades, were asking me, but Osbro, like beside prop firms, where can you trade gold? How to open a broker account, etc. So that's a very good thing, in my opinion, and it will open the gates for hopefully a healthy competition around these new features.
I think,
And
yeah,
that's
rising tide lifts all boats kind of a thing. You know, if the lighter TGE does well, I don't think it's going to overshadow other dexes. I think it's going to bring more capital into the dex space in general. I think you're exactly right there. So before we go, I want to
yeah.
touch on the Bank of Japan point, and then I'm going to let Victor talk about the Christmas event, which we did stay around, guys. We have a special announcement, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think anyone who's been around Crypto X the last few weeks will see that everyone's talking about the Japan carry trade, Bank of Japan FUD. I'm getting notifications I'm getting news alerts. I'm getting notifications on my phone saying, the Japan Minister of Finance has said this. Oh, they have a meeting. I guess like the first question is, why is that important for us as crypto traders? Why are people paying attention to this? What is the carry trade? What is the FUD around the Bank of Japan at the moment, and why should we be paying attention to it?
Basically, just like the event that happened last August, so, last year in August, so August 2024, with the carry trade unwind. If you remember, if you've been around, the Bank of Japan surprised everyone, increasing rates against all odds, and it resulted in a crazy market sell-off because people didn't have the time to cover the positions of carry trade. The thing is, it's that since that event, nothing has really changed. The yen is even cheaper, so it kept representing a crazy opportunity for people taking advantage of carry trade, because the yen just kept going down and down and down. The thing is, as you said, there are a lot of rumors about the Bank of Japan increasing rates to a 30 years historical high of 0.75 basis point this week on December 19. These are rumors, nobody knows, because it hasn't been confirmed by the Bank of Japan governor. However, why there is a lot of FUD? First, because you know the game, it makes impressions, it forms engagement, it sells as well. So you saw a lot of people, and I've been trolling quite a few accounts, but it was just trolling, who were just like copy pasting dumb stuff about the Bank of Japan. They most likely they don't know what they're talking about. Like they said, yeah, it's the first time in 30 years that they increase rates and stuff like that. So you have a lot of misinformation. It's very difficult for the BOJ to increase rates because they are in a tough economic situation regarding inflation and economic growth. So, and they also have a crazy amount of debt. And when you have a crazy amount of debt, you pay a crazy amount of interest. And if you raise those interests, then you pay an even crazier amount of interest. So that's why, even though we have a lot of rumors and a lot of FUD, I'm still cautious. And I can't say, yeah, they're going to increase rates. You should be careful. Don't trade. Don't do anything. It's impossible to know. Only the guys at the Bank of Japan will decide if it's the good opportunity or not. And also, it's going against the policy of the new prime minister. She wants to stimulate the economy, and I don't really know. I'm not. I don't know well enough to say is the Bank of Japan um, the prime minister's puppet or not. Or is it like a relation like Powell and Trump, for example? I don't know. She got elected 2 months ago, so it's a bit difficult to guess. However, I expect. I mean, I hope that what we are seeing in the market right now is just people anticipating a potential rate hike and people covering their position by selling the assets to anticipate the repayment of the loans in case of a rate hike. Because if they increase rates, then it will have a double effect. Obviously, the yen will appreciate itself, but also because there is a they have opposite policies: the Bank of Japan increasing rates and the Fed cutting rates. Then it will weaken the dollar. So it will make the repayment even more expensive for carry trade investors. So I hope, but for the sake of the market, that this is just an event of like investors and market participants anticipating and covering themselves, preserving themselves in case we get bad news on December 19, which is Friday. Yeah, Friday. So that's why you see a lot of FUD, lot of people talking about it. That's quite the main event of this week. However, I would like to bring some nuance as usual. For example, I remember everyone was sharing the same chart saying, "Oh, when the Bank of Japan increase rates, the market dumps 20%, and that means BTC would go straight to 70K." It's not that true, because people share the charts of that covers the Bank of Japan rates increase of 2025, but also the Liberation Day. So it's a bit false, I would say, and misleading to say, oh, it's because of the BOJ increasing rates that the market nuked. No, it's also because we had Liberation Day, tensions escalating with China, between US and China, etc. So yeah, just I see the question about from Vic. This is what I was
Priced
saying.
in.
I hope that this is priced in. I hope like the sell-off that we have is priced in, because if you have this sell-off and this is not the anticipation, that we might have another sell-off, and that means portfolios being hurt. I will stop right now because I don't want to talk too long about macro. You have something really excited to talk about regarding the Christmas event. So I'll pass the mic to Vic.
No worries. Thank you for that. And speaking of macro, that's another thing that we are going to have added to the Chroma education, the new trading syllabus that we are working on behind the scenes. There is going to be effectively an entire module dedicated to just macroeconomics and macro analysis, and that will, of course, um, be championed by Osbra, who is our resident macroeconomic brain. But yeah, as Osbert just mentioned, we are going to finish this up by just touching on the Chroma Christmas event. So I'm going to pass it over to the most festive analyst, Victor.
I'm not as festive today, but during the event, I'll be wearing a Santa hat, and I will oblige anyone that joins from the Chroma team to do so as well. It will be a really nice get together before Christmas, where we won't talk about charts, we won't talk about crypto specifically. We'll kind of talk about how we all started trading, so that you guys can get to know us a little bit better. But we're also going to be talking about how this year was for us, what we learned, what went well, what maybe things we're looking to improve for next year. And overall, we're going to be creating a really nice atmosphere so that we can all enjoy a nice event before Christmas together, and maybe forget about the market for an hour or so. It's going to be really nice. We haven't set a date yet. It's going to be, I believe, before Christmas, definitely, but I have to ask the people on the team when they are available. But yeah, it's gonna be a really nice event. So bring your Christmas spirit, and we'll have a nice time all together.
I feel imbued with the spirit of Christmas just listening to you talk about it, Victor. I'm all the more festive just for having listened to that. Yeah, Osber says I'm already hyped. The hype levels are off the chart. It's going to be the best Christmas event we've ever ran. Now, some people might say, our critics might say that it's the only Christmas event we've ever ran. But I say, don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to the Scrooges. Don't listen to the Grinches. You know, it will be the best event we've ever run. Will we sing Christmas carols together? You know what? The sky is the limit for what we can do on this on this Christmas event. But yeah, looking
You
forward to that.
don't
It's
want to
gonna
hear me sing.
yeah, it's gonna
When is it? When are we doing it? What's the date?
I'll
we
make a
need to
post
figure it out.
and ask. Yeah, we figure it out
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
probably
so that
sometime next
as
week.
many people
So
as
it's
possible can join. Yeah.
yeah, we won't. So it's not like literally like December 24th or something like that. But anyway, thank you very much. I think we're going to wrap things up there. Big thanks to our handsome and intelligent panelists. We had Jedi Osber Victor, we had Purdue earlier, and Rouge's car, of course. Special guest appearance. And yeah, that's about it, boys. This was a good one. We spoke about the state of the market. We spoke about, so I'm just looking back here, we spoke about ETH relative strength. We spoke about coins like Monad, XPL, Aster, and kind of the hype around those projects. We spoke about the 10th of October and liquidity mechanics in the current market. We spoke about the lighter TG and what that means for the wider crypto space. And Osber wrapped things up by speaking about the Bank of Japan carry trade and that FUD that's in the market at the moment. And yeah, as Victor just touched on there, we will be running a Christmas event next week. So stay tuned for more news on that. But until the next, oh
One
yeah, go
more.
on.
One more thing. I'd like to tip my hat off to your performance on social media, on your streams. Top draw performances all around, dude. You've taken a very depressing time in the market and made it fucking entertaining. Please carry on. It's been good fun. Top performance, sir.
I appreciate that, Jetty. Yes, it's a case of laugh so you don't cry, right? Isn't that it? We can't all be, don't look at your portfolio balance. Just make jokes and post memes instead. All right, thank you very much, guys. That's a really positive and nice note to end things on. We are back next week, as always, on Tuesday for the next roundtable. Until then, stay safe, and we will see you in the server. Peace out, Girl Scouts.